Hello and welcome, ladies and gentlemen, finest asset, this is Battlefield 1, and today's weapon review, we're going to be taking a closer look at the M1917 MG, introduced of course in the Turning Tides DLC for the support class. As per usual for weapon reviews, we're going to be looking at the unlock requirements of this weapon, the stats, the performance that it brings to the table, how the two different variants compare to each other, as well as other support weapons available in Battlefield 1, and last, but certainly not least, of course, we're going to be taking a closer look at how to get the most out of this weapon when using it on the battlefield. Jumping straight into the unlock requirements, if you wish to unlock the low weight version of the M1917 MG, you're going to have to get 25 kills with the bar M1918 trench, as well as perform 250 vehicle damage using explosives. If you wish to unlock the telescopic variant of this weapon, you're going to have to already have unlocked the low weight, because you're going to have to get 50 kills with that M1917 MG low weight, as well as perform 1,500 points of suppression with any LMG. However, I would recommend you use one of the larger LMGs when it comes to actual magazine sizes, because they will have an easier time simply putting down sustained suppression pressure, because you won't have to reload the weapon as often, thus making it easier to actually unlock the telescopic variant. The unlock requirements then out the way, how does this weapon perform? Well, looking at the stats, in this case for the low weight version of this weapon, you've got a maximum damage of 23 and a minimum damage of 19, guaranteeing you of course a 5-shot kill all the way out to 30 meters, and from 31 meters onwards, you're going to require 6 shots to actually down your target. This is of course set to change if the time to kill, the bullet to kill changes currently proposed on the CT actually make it into the vanilla game. As for now, however, you've got a guaranteed all-range 6-shot kill with this weapon. This comes paired with a very low fire rate, sadly, at 450 rounds per minute, a very high muzzle velocity at 820 meters per second, and the largest magazine found on any primary weapon, I believe, in Battlefield 1, with 250 rounds available to shoot through with this weapon. As no surprise, the reload time is obviously quite extensive, with a short and long reload on this weapon identical at 8.333 seconds, meaning that if you ever actually get the chance to reload this weapon, don't reload it when you've got an enemy right in front of you. Recoil on this weapon is relatively low, but not the lowest in the LMG category, with 0.26 vertical and 0.17 to the left and right, that is horizontal recoil, paired with a mediocre first shot recoil multiplier of 1.8. Spread values are relatively standardized for this weapon, with a base ADS that's aiming down sight while not moving of 0.18, ADS while moving of 1.02, and a typical abysmal hip fire to be found on most LMGs of 3.75. Further on these spread values of this weapon, you're going to have a negative spread increase here, typical of 0.099, as well as a first shot spread multiplier of -6, both for ADS and hip firing, meaning that you will of course initially start off very accurate with this weapon, then jump to extreme inaccuracy, and upon your 8th fired bullet consecutively, return to your minimum spread. In the case of standing still and aiming down sight, with the low weight variant, this is 0.18. Having then covered the stats of the low weight, how does the low weight variant differentiate itself from the telescopic variant, the second variant of the M1917 MG available in Battlefield 1? Well, there are only a few differences, but likely the most noticeable is obviously going to be the difference in optic. Whereas the low weight comes with a iron sight optic, the telescopic comes with a telescopic optic, giving it not only the possibility of a higher degree of magnification, but also meaning that it's going to take you slightly longer to ADS when using the telescopic over using the low weight iron sights. Further to that, there is a difference in recoil decrease typical for low weight variants. This weapon loses its recoil much more quickly than the telescopic variant, with values of 10 versus 6 for the telescopic. Further to that, of course, also typical between a low weight and telescopic comparison, the telescopic has a lower base ADS at 0.12 versus the low weight 0.18. What the telescopic, however, has as disadvantage versus the low weight is a lower first shot spread multiplier of -7 versus the -6 of the low weight, meaning that while the low weight takes 8 bullets to return to its maximum accurate state when firing fully automatic, the telescopic will actually require 9 bullets to get to that stage, where it is once more firing at its maximum accuracy minimum spread. Having talked then about the differences stat-wise, what are really the important choices that you have to make when choosing between the low weight and the telescopic? In my opinion, honestly, it really does come down to which of the two optics you prefer. I personally prefer a telescopic optic over the low weight, and thus found the telescopic to be more enjoyable, especially because I had the option at least to push the magnification a little bit higher, which can be useful for engaging targets at those medium long ranges, which you will be doing with this weapon if you're using it at its ideal engagement distance. When looking at this weapon in light, however, of the more general long-range LMG category of weaponry we have available, the easiest comparison we can have here is between the M1909 Bennett Mercier and the M1917 MG. Essentially, these weapons are more or less identical, with the 1909 coming with the same fire rate, coming with the same damage model, coming with relatively similar recoil as well, but however a smaller magazine at the expense of a lower first shot recoil multiplier, and some different spread attributes when it comes to hipfire and shooting while moving. Essentially, the M1917 is a larger magazine version of the M1909, one of the more popular long-range LMGs available, of course, in Battlefield 1. Comparing it to something like the Perigno is also interesting, because while the Perigno has some advantages over the M1917, in that, for example, it has generally lower recoil, as well as a lower first shot recoil multiplier, as well as having generally identical or better spread attributes with a lower first shot spread multiplier, meaning that you have to fire this gun, the Perigno that is, for a lower amount of time before it is once more fully accurate compared to the M1917. It comes with a worse damage model when it comes to long range engagements, requiring 7 bullets to actually down your target at long range, at least as it stands now, before the changes to bullets to kill that will be introduced hopefully soon to Battlefield 1. Thus the choice is very much up to you. If you are more of a user of the M1909 Bennett Mercier, then the M1917 is likely the better choice for you. If you prefer, for example, the Huet automatic low weight, then it shares more attributes with the Perigno than it does with the M1917. When it comes to generally using long-range LMGs, I personally probably am not the best person to ask. I don't generally enjoy using what I like to call pea shooter weapons, because of course of the way that spread attributes works with LMGs in Battlefield 1, you find yourself missing, no matter how accurate you are, your first shots before your weapon returns to a decent level of accuracy. This is where I much prefer scout weaponry or long-range self-loading rifles, from the medic class of course, to take out my targets. But of course the advantage of using an LMG like this is not only can you take on many more targets before having to reload, but you also have the option to very effectively suppress large groups of enemies. And if you set up your bipod as you do with any LMG, suddenly you have more or less the hardest hitting gun at long distances, unless of course you've got a scout player nailing headshots. That all being said, I'd like to hear your opinion on the M1917, low weight or telescopic, your experiences with this weapon, as well as your usual video suggestions. So leave those down below in the comments or hit me up with them on Twitter. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up. But with all that being said, I'd like to thank you very much for watching and hope to see you in the next Battlefield 1 video.